rebuilding the Jerusalem economy. If I look at my personal life and my business life, I worked for several, I worked in the automotive. I worked for several bigger companies, Volkswagen, Audi, Volvo, Range Rover. And this whole theme about rebuilding the Jerusalem economy is more or less a life story. As I started in Babylon, where Nehemiah is also leaving and rebuilding Jerusalem. And I will explain more about that. And I also wrote a book about it. So if you would like to read more about it and dive deeper into this topic, at Amazon.com, you can buy the book. It's called The Jerusalem Entrepreneur. It's translated in 10 languages. So probably most of your languages are covered. And you can also read more about it at JerusalemEntrepreneur.com. And what I do in this book, I compare two cities. And these two cities are reigned by two spiritual powers. And what I recognize during my business life is that they are real powers in business. And that you worship or the one or the other. And I think most of us worship both. As you will recognize when I tell the story, that both are present in our personal life and in our heart. And sometimes we have to choose what will we follow and who are we serving. And we never get completely rid of this whole spiritual power of Babylon, because it's so present in our culture and in our society, and it gets under your skin, and slowly you become part of it. So you cannot completely escape it. Although understanding these two powers and these principles can help you to make better choices. And I think that is the value of this. Yeah, the agenda, two ways of doing business. I will explain more. And then also out of that, what is then our challenge? As I believe that we live in a Babylon culture nowadays, and I will use Daniel and also Nehemiah as an example how they lived in a Babylon culture for 70 years and how they survived. And they were being foreigners and strangers in a culture. And that immediately reflects to the New Testament on where Peter is telling in 1 Peter chapter 2, you are also foreigners and strangers in this world and in this culture. But we are also a royal priesthood and a holy nation. A people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of the darkness. And we can also do that in our business. And we can also do that as an entrepreneur through our business. And we can also do that in this current Babylonian culture. Keep your conduct, is Peter saying, keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that they may see your good deeds and glorifying God. And I think that is a leading scripture verse for our behavior in today's world. And the last part, how can this look like? I have 4 principles. I don't know if I can touch on them. If I cannot, Radovan, I don't know where you sit. You intervene when it takes too long, and people can ask questions afterwards, or you can read about it in the book. So I have 4 principles that are important for rebuilding the Jerusalem economy. But let us dive deeper into the topic and start with these 2 business views I see and I embrace myself in the start. And this is basically how I started. I worked for Volkswagen Audi. I was very successful. And in that time, my career was mainly about me, myself, and I. I want to be glorified. I want to be the great person. And the reward was not so much the money that I made, but the reward was much more about that people praised me, that people saw me, the recognition I received, the status, the self-realization. That were big topics for me, and that were big drivers for me. Increased stature and reputation by means of power, competition, achievement, and money. Business success is personal success. That was my worldview, that was my paradigm, that was my goal, that were my drivers, basically. And if you have these drivers, then you basically don't have any borders anymore. And the end justify the means. And basically you can do everything as long as this keeps on going. But there's also a disadvantage in this life. Your life slowly becomes like a zigzag. You know, when you have tangible successes, you feel high. But when these tangible successes stay away for a longer time, you feel very low. And basically in this system, you are your latest success. And success in business, we all know, endures maybe for a day or 2 or 10, but not longer than a month. And then your supervisor will come or your leader will come and say, hey, where is your next success? We want to see the rewards and we want to see what happens. The other way of thinking about business, and I also saw that in business, and I experienced that more in the second phase of my life when I worked for Volvo. And they had another view about business. They said you live with a purpose or a calling that is bigger than yourself. So it's not only about what you self-achieve, but you have a calling and that is bigger than yourself. And so you take in account the well-being of your staff, the other stakeholders, creation, etc. And the reward there is how to contribute to the well-being of all the stakeholders. And that includes also God. And in my time of Volvo, God was not so present. It was more about the purpose. There I learned very to do and to think from a higher perspective. And slowly afterwards, when I started to work for a Christian business association in the Netherlands, and God became more present. And I saw also more the Christian angle of it. And success in this model is solving problems and creating well-being to the full. And when you are as a Christian, there comes something extra, because I did not mention it as this is an older PowerPoint, but last year my mother passed away. And then you start to think about leaving a legacy. And that I'm still a believer and that I know Christ has to do with the legacy my mother left in my life. And at her funeral, I said, yeah, if you want to be successful in life, and people ask me afterwards, what is then success in life? I think is leaving a legacy of faith in your children, that your children also believe and that you keep the faith. I did not mention that here, but I think that is more important than only solving problems. So that's also the reason why I work for Europartners. Europartners is an evangelical movement that would like to bring the gospel in the marketplace, that would like to make Christ known to the non-Christians and to help the Christians to live as an ambassador of Christ in the marketplace. That's my primary driver. So being successful for me is leaving Christ behind in other people. And that goes beyond what is here as what you can do in business is solving problems and creating well-being to the full. Yeah, bringing Christ is the real well-being to the full. As Jesus is saying, I did not come to judge, but I came to give you life, life to the full. And how does that look like? And I think that is our challenge as entrepreneurs and also as businesses, to create a life for ourselves, for our business, to create a culture and a life also for our employees, that is start to recognize, how does this life to the full look like? Because many people I speak, also non-Christians, they are looking for life, for real life. Many people are disappointed about life nowadays, and they don't know how to live it anymore. And the basic principles of life, they seem to be lost in society. And if we talk about love, a word of love is so contaminated with sexuality that we lose the real meaning of it. A word of grace will not resonate with a non-Christian. Said, grace, what is it? What is it about? And to give these words a new dimension, that they can see it, that they can feel it, that they are tangible, and that they can fill them with the right meaning. That's our call as entrepreneurs as well, that we create in our businesses, who are basically mini societies, that we can create there a culture that people can recognize who God is and who we would like to be for his people. So that is about success. And the left, the primary objective is profit maximization and being a winner. And the code of conduct is more what I told about the end justify the means. And in the right, the primary objective is to solve needs, to add value, and to make people flourish. And the code of conduct is people first. Love and serve with excellence for good, for God, and for holistic growth and holistic life. And to give you a tangible example of these two cultures, I have two videos of two big companies who need to restructure their company. And both companies you will know. The first one is P&O Ferries. And because their profit went down, they had to dismiss 800 people. And they replaced them for cheaper labors, Philippine people from other nations. And the way they do it is very extraordinary. And the second example is from Unilever. And Unilever had a high success with this ice cream Magnum. But when the success was going down, people get redundant and they had to dismiss people and restructure the whole ice department. And their vice president, the president of the ice department, tells how he did it. And he's a Christian. So let us look at these two movies. This is how P&O Ferries dealt with their topic.
Business has been struggling financially for the last few years and has lost around £100 million each year for the last 2 years. Whilst these losses have been covered by P&O Ferries' parent company, DP World, it's clearly not sustainable in the future. The business cannot continue to operate like this, so it has had to consider a range of different options in order to drastically reduce costs. These circumstances have resulted in a very difficult but necessary decision to restructure P&O Ferries' workforce and operations in order to protect the future of the business. This was only taken after seriously considering all of the available options. The company has made the decision that its vessels, going forward, will be primarily crewed by a third-party crew provider. Therefore, I am sorry to inform you that this means your employment is terminated with immediate effect on the grounds of redundancy. Your final day of employment is today.
That is the message that 800 people get on YouTube. This is real. It happened in 2022, not so long ago. This is real. And this is how Unilever does it. And Unilever, this example comes from a small video that we developed in a project we call Surpassing Success. So Surpassing Success, we have more videos. You can check it on the internet. But this is how Unilever did it. And he's a Christian.
I became responsible for a business unit within Unilever selling ice cream. 10 years before I started, Magnum came to the market, a big innovation and clever marketing campaigns, and it doubled the business, including doubling of the staff. But after a while, the Magnum effect was worn off. The business fell back to its original volumes, and that meant that also half of the staff we had to let go. And that was my task when I started running that business unit.
Something tells me you didn't fire those people via email, did you?
No, I didn't. So I had quite a few sleepless nights. And in those dark moments, it brought me back to the question, where do I stand for? How do I want to do this? So I set myself 2 additional goals. And the first one was that I wanted to shake hands with everybody I had to say goodbye to, including their spouse.
Wow.
It really took some time to engage with my team and to open up the relationships, to be honest about our feelings. And what I learned is that people are not against the decision. It's the rejection that really hurts. And when I understood that, we could finish the professional relationship in a very elegant way. So at the end of this reorganization, I got a handshake of all my colleagues, including their spouses. And that felt good.
That's great. And what was your second goal?
The second goal was to bring back the music and the lights on the department. So after this difficult period, we renewed our purpose. We took a while to build a team again. And we coached and professionally developed all the team members. And that brought the light and the music back on this department.
A complete different world, a complete different culture, a complete different way of thinking about business and who we are. And yeah, behind this all is a spiritual world. And if you would like to discover the spiritual world above this world we face and see, you can read the book of Revelation. As Revelation look at this world from another perspective. It looks at the past and the present and the future from a perspective from the heavenly realms and the spiritual powers who are behind it. And there we read also about these two cities of Babylon and Jerusalem. And Babylon and Jerusalem, you see in the Bible already starting in Genesis. In Genesis, we see Nimrod, who established already early in the days the city of Babylon. We see Melchizedek, who received Abraham with his blessings as the king of Jerusalem. And the Bible ends in Revelation also with this picture of Babylon and Jerusalem. And it are constantly two powers who are more or less fighting with each other. And when the people don't listen to God, God said, I will send you to exile and I will give you to this power of Babylon. And so even the Jews went to exile at a certain moment and had to survive there for 70 years. And as I told, we are also more or less in exile and foreigners, but we are also this holy nation, this priesthood. But let us see at these spiritual powers who are beyond it. In Revelation 17 and 18, we see the spiritual power beyond the city of Babylon. And she's called the great prostitute of Babylon. And one of her main phrases is that she said, I sit enthroned as a queen. I'm not a widow. I will never mourn. And she's glorifying himself. That's basically her attitude. It's all about me, myself, and I. And if we read more about her, we read that she is sitting on many waters, representing a multitude of nations and languages that this earth contains. Her influence is huge. Everyone would like to become part of her culture, of her vision about life and how she lives. And even the kings, as Revelation tells, they fornicate with her. Even the kings would like to introduce her culture, her way of thinking into their systems, into their nation, that everyone can take part of it. And the people become drunk of her wine. They cannot recognize other things anymore. They are so drunk, they are so addicted to this kind. And the business and people and the merchants, they glorify her. Because what Peter Briscoe was talking about, we live in a consumer's economy. That's her trademark. She consumes a lot. Luxury goods, heavy goods, she party, a very hedonistic lifestyle. And the merchants and the business people are very happy with her because they become rich. And they are happy that she's spending so much. And she buys all kinds of costly goods and luxuries. She has splendor and wealth as is never seen before. And I think today we live in a culture and we live in a world that is richer than ever before. I think we were never so rich as we are today. And she's clothed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold, jewels, and pearls, holding in her hand a cup, and that's the downside, filled with immortality. And she kills the ones who resist her. And she has a not so glorious end. Her wealth disappears in 1 hour. And it's not so hard to see her today in our culture. It's not so hard to see her today in political leaders. It's not so hard to see her today in promotions and elections. And because what is the main topic always in elections? That's the personal wealth of the individual people. And everyone will threaten that personal wealth we would like to get rid of. So we live in a world that is focused on this kind of lifestyle. Me, myself, and I. Me first. I use others and I don't allow other voices. There is no limits. There's complete freedom without any responsibility. I live out completely my heart feelings and what I feel and what I want. There is a lot of outward beauty, material richness, luxurious prosperity, precious stones, luxurious clothing, homework, and effort. That is basically what she does. And she would like to grow to heaven. As a human being, the ultimate goal is we build our city, we will never be forgotten, and we build our towers to the heaven. And that is contradicted with another city and another spiritual power. And this spiritual power is the city of Jerusalem. And when you read about that, we read that this city comes down from heaven. Radovan, you mentioned it. It is not working your way up to heaven. No, God is saying, I come down to this earth to dwell among you, to take away the tears, to take away the pain, to take care for you. So there we see a completely different spiritual power, a power who's loving people, willing to serve, a very meek, coming down to earth, not boosting on himself. Now, what is God doing? He's not clothing himself with jewels and gold. He's clothing the city with precious stones. And I think these precious stones represent the promises God gave to us already in all the variety in the Old and in the New Testament. And that is the beauty of the city. And the beauty of the city is not only outward, even the foundations of these walls are clothed with these precious stones. So the outward beauty is also an inward beauty. God works on character transformation. He works on who we are. He works on our longings, on our willing. And that what comes out of that shines. And the beauty of the city is not only coming from the outside. The sun and the moon are not needy. There's so much light in the city because of who God is, that she starts to shine among others. The spiritual power is taking care of people. Comfort, compassion, restore, and heal. There's not complete freedom. God is restricted by his own love and by his own personality and by his own values. There is a focus on character development and the change of heart. And the promise of God make the city shine, that God is there and that he's involved. That makes the city shine. And afterwards, when the marriage takes place, the city is shines like a bride. So she's also represented as the bride of Christ. And afterwards, when the marriage takes place, the people get fine clothes of white linen, and that are the righteous deeds. Do you already feel the difference between these two cultures? Do you feel the way you treat and act and perform? Babylon, unexpected, a sudden and rapid downfall. And we see that often. We always say, hubris comes before the fall. And that's typically what happened in Babylon. And in Jerusalem, eternal life and glory. So even with the end in mind, we have a more rational choice to choose for Jerusalem next to what it brings and how it makes life flourish and how it makes life better. Now, this is the end of the Bible, but it starts already in the start. And in the start, it talks about your earning model, the way you earn your money and you work on well-being and prosperity. And Nimrod is mentioned as a game changer. He was the first one who used power to submit people and build a world empire. It was never seen before, the Bible said. So what was then the way people act before? They live in small tribes, small families, small nations, living from agriculture, where herds were maybe plugging the soil, working on the land and on the field. And the way they make money was to take care of the means of existence. That's a very important notion. The animals, the solid and creation. To take care of it, like in creation, that God said, take care of the garden, maintain it, work in it, make it flourish, take care of it. And they add value through their creativity and through labor to these means of existence to make them flourish. So they pluck the soil, they fertilize the soil, and the soil yield more crop and yields more. They do the same with the animals. When you take good care of cows, for example, as a Dutch farmer will know, the better you take care of the cows, the more they yield milk. If you have a better stable where they live in and you take more care, That was the way they multiplied. And sure, there were fights. There were also wars in that time. But there were more fights among whales about on the soil, but never to rule nation, to submit people, and to build a world empire to glorify yourself. And the goal there in that time was the common good. Yeah? If we are wealthy, if we have a good living, everyone has a good living. The earning model adding values to the means of existence. And there was also an understanding that they live from the grace of God. And then Nimrod came as a game changer. And the Bible says he's a game changer. And Nimrod was called a hunter. And what does a hunter do? Instead of someone who works in agriculture, a hunter kills and takes. He's not adding value. He's only eating. He's only harvesting. And when you only harvest on the soil, what does the soil do? The soil becomes poor and renders less. And slowly at the end, there is nothing to gain anymore. But that is his understanding of life, because that's an easy part. He's strong, he has power, he knows out of his hunting experience how to deal with it. He kills and he takes. And he starts doing that. He built a mighty empire. He built the first empire in the world. And the goal is me, myself, and I, to glorify himself, to build monuments for the future, that he would be remembered for forever. And he built all the major and main cities in the Middle East who are still exist today. Many of them at least. His earning model is compete. You have others, you compete with, and you submit. You kill and you take, and you create a monopoly on power and on people. And both these ways of thinking I see in business. I see businesses who think business is war. It's a zero-sum game. If I win, someone else will lose. We need to become the strongest. We need to create a monopoly. Then we can make more money, more profit. We can glorify ourselves. We can grow. And I see businesses where you come in the boardroom and they ask ourselves, how can we add value to our customers? How can we add value to our suppliers? How can we make the system more healthy? And how can we compete in a different way? And there are two ways of building businesses. The first king of Jerusalem is Melchizedek. And Melchizedek is a king who was known for peace and righteousness. And he came to Abraham to bless him. And I think that's our calling. We are entrepreneurs to bless this world with our endeavors. To go out, bless the champions, come alongside, create peace and righteousness. That should be our goal with our businesses. But we live in a Babylonian culture. And how to do that? Because the world speaks another language. And it's not so easy. It's nice to talk about this ideal, but can we really live it? And you have basically three responses to this culture. And I see them also in Christianity. You have the people what I call, they accept the culture. They assimilate with the culture. They embrace the culture. They become like this culture. And basically, that's a very lazy response. It's a flee response. I don't take any responsibility. As it comes, it comes. I look where the water flows the most easy. I follow that path. I follow the models I see in this world. And that's how I do and deal with this culture and with my business. On 5 minutes. So the other one is to fight it, to be rebellious. Karl Marx, Marxism. He said this capitalist culture, it makes slaves of people. I fight it. I bring a revolution, etc. And I think there's a third response is to improve it and to complete it as God intended it to be. And if we look at biblical examples, then I think Daniel is a very good example. As Daniel, he came in the Babylonian court, and imagine he was very young. He was more or less a high potential who comes into a corporate. Young, promising, and the corporate sees this raw diamond and said, we would like to invest in this guy. He will be the future of tomorrow. And let's give him the best education he can get. And we will pay for it. And we promised him a position already in the future. So we changed his name. And I can relate to that. I was very young. I was 28 when I started working with Volkswagen. And I was not long about to drop us anymore. I got a new name. I was the president of this company. That sounds much better. So they take away my heritage and my upbringing. And they said, you get the best education you can get. Behave like this and you will be successful. And you will be part of our empire. And you can grow within this company. And the life is promising. And who don't fell for that? Daniel didn't. In this contest about the food, the people said, this is the best food you can get. It will make you healthy. You will look good. Even the kings eat it. We did surveys about it. We investigate. You should eat it. And Daniel said, I don't want to be arrogant, but maybe there is another way. So he brought in an alternative way of behavior, an alternative strategy. And he did not force it, like our speaker said. No, he was smart, he was wise, he did it with tact. He knew about that his leader could be beheaded when he was not seeing as wealthy and as prosperous as all the others. But he took the challenge. And the reason why he took the challenge, he knew, and that is verse 12 in the first chapter, that when he followed the commandments of God, God would be with him. And that strong internal faith, that was the key why he was able to behave differently. That was the only reason he could trust. And afterwards, he showed very well. And the people said, wow, amazing strategy. You look well. And he was seen 10 times as wise as all the others. And imagine that we can become that kind of people. That we become that kind of people in our economy. And there was a time in China that they put Christians in government positions because they know that Christians could not be bribed and that they were not corrupted. So Christianity became a trademark of quality. Imagine that we as entrepreneurs can change the system and do it in a godly way, and that after time, when people ask, we have a problem, that they say, like Daniel at the end of his years, it seems to be that there are wise people in the marketplace. We should ask them for advice because it seems that the gods are with them. Imagine that that becomes our trademark. That we can bring in business models, that we can behave in such a way that we become a trademark of quality, and that people say when they have problems, let us go to the Christians. Because it seems that the gods are with them. And they are 10 times as wise as we are. And they show off very good. And that is our challenge.